I know in the teaser it says that the Afrikaans is actually dying amongst this group of people. Less and less people are speaking it. So is it just the older guys who are speaking Afrikaans and then their kids are speaking Spanish?
That's right, yeah. They did well in the first few decades after they got there, between 1902 and 1908. And then in 1938, it was the centenary of the Great Trek. And the South African government said to them, look, we're no longer a British government, you've got an Afrikaans government, anyone who wants to come back to South Africa will help you repatriate. And so somewhere between a half and 2/3 of them returned to South Africa at that point. Right. And I think that was when the critical mass of people required to, keep a language alive started dwindling a lot. So now they estimate somewhere between 50 and 150 people can speak some Afrikaans, and maybe somewhere between 10 and a few dozen can speak Afrikaans well. Wow. And they say themselves, within maybe 10 or 20 years, the language is most likely going to have died out there.
Now, do they mix a lot with the Argentinian people, or do they stay in their community?
In previous years, they used to stay within the community as much as possible. But, after their numbers dwindled quite a lot after the repatriation, they didn't really have a choice. So these days, they mix a lot with the Argentine community. They're mostly indistinguishable from the Argentine community, except when you hear them in their own family setting and they start chatting in Afrikaans. But, in the rest of the world, they speak Spanish as well.
Well, what was interesting to me when I was watching the teaser is how they identify as South Africans and how some of them have never even been here. Yeah. They still consider South Africa their homeland. What was it like for you to experience that firsthand?
It was great, actually, because while I saw their sense of identity in how they consider themselves to be South African, well, what was interesting actually is that a lot of them referred to being from Africa, not South Africa. And it made me kind of raise my own sort of questions about how we identify ourselves. And one of the things I was concerned about going over there is being an English-speaking South African. I thought, well, maybe there's some lingering resentment from the fact that they left South Africa to get away from a British government. And they didn't care at all. Right off the bat, all they cared about is I could speak Afrikaans, I could hang out with them, we understood each other's culture, and I was from South Africa. And so they kind of embraced me as part of their family. I think if they were to come back to South Africa, they'd probably have a bit of culture shock, because they live an Argentine lifestyle, really, that's kind of layered over their South Africanness. So I think they'd be quite curious to what South Africa really is like.
Well, it sounds like you had an amazing journey. How long were you in Argentina for?
I was only there I was with them for about a week. I was in Argentina for about 10 days. That's as far as my budget would stretch for the development phase of the project. But we'll need to go back for at least 1 or 2 more trips and spend more time filming there. Okay,
what was your most shocking moment in that 10-day span?
One of the really great, and again was part of their hospitality, one of the great things that happened was they took me to the farm where some of the old guys live, and I arrived there and there were 3 freshly slaughtered sheep that they had gotten together to prepare lunch for me, and that's when I realized these
very
guys.
Hospitable.
Yeah, it was, but freshly slaughtered sheep is not something you see every day in South Africa, where we've got our food pre-packaged for us.
Exactly.
So that's why it reminds me a lot of the Karoo sort of setting. These guys live on the land, they live off the land, and that's how they live, a very kind of rural sort of environment. The Argentines are passionate about asado, what they call asado, what we call braai. And so these guys having this culture of making asado as Argentines, but also having the passion for braaiing as South Africans mean, they've really got their braaiing down.
Their skills are perfect. I want to get into next steps for the movies just now, but I want to know why it's important for you to tell this story.
Well, I think it's a shame that the story isn't more known in South Africa. Everyone who comes across it just says, wow, I had no idea, that's incredible. And that's a wonderful reaction to have. There's so many little stories like this. Through the research I've been doing, I've been coming across more and more stories. We've got these amazing little stories in our South African history that are almost forgotten. And I kind of feel it's my duty as a documentary filmmaker to help bring these stories to life again, to let them be more widely known and appreciated. And I'm also hoping that maybe because of this film and it's raising awareness of the fact that there are guys who live in Patagonia, maybe we can try find a way of perpetuating the language there. I'd love for government to take enough interest to say, well, let's send some Afrikaans teachers over there as one of the teacher postings and try to teach the younger generation of people to speak Afrikaans, because that's really the only way the language will survive there.
Okay, well, how are you going to go about continuing on this journey? We have the teaser now. What do you need to do to make the full-length film?
Well, we can't shoot for the next at least 6 months anyway, because we're going into winter in Patagonia, and winter's a pretty miserable time of year to be there. A lot of the roads to the farms are closed by snow, so that kind of put things to a stop for now. So we're using the next 6 months or so to look for more funds to go into making the film further. So part of that might come from private investment, part of it might come from film funding bodies, and whatever shortfall, we might do another crowdfunding campaign to make up the funds we need.
Okay, and how can people find out more about the film, release dates, how they can help if they're interested in funding?
Well, release dates for now, optimistically, I'd like to say middle of next year, just knowing how long these things take in terms of the post-production. It's probably going to go to film festivals first, so I'd like to see it in some local film festivals next year. So that'll probably be the first place people can see it. After that, hopefully broadcast or video on demand or various sort of channels like that.
How can people get involved and follow the film's progress on social media?
We've got a very active Facebook page at the moment. You can find it by looking for Boers at the End of the World. And lots of people have been joining in the last few days, which has been great, and people are starting lots of dialogue around it. And one of the things that I'm seeing, which is great, is that a lot of people are asking, well, how can we actually stay in contact with the people over in Argentina? So I'm not quite sure what that answer is, and if anyone's got good ideas on some sort of a group or a page, bearing in mind that a lot of the guys aren't on Facebook, maybe we can find a way of enhancing our ties with them, so we can do a bit of cultural exchange or chat between them. That would be really great.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me in the studio, and we look forward to seeing the film next year.
Thank you very much.